The issues affecting you. Revealed, explained, discussed. Now on WGAL 8 in Focus.
Hello, I'm Susan Shapiro. The holidays are supposed to be a happy time filled with family, friends, and good cheer. But for some, that's not the case. From people dealing with grief to those feeling overwhelmed, the holidays may bring up new feelings or revive old ones. Tonight, we speak with a therapist to help you deal with those feelings. We're putting holiday stress and depression in focus. Joining us now is therapist and counselor Mark Sigmund. He's with Retreat Behavioral Health. Thanks so much for being here.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Mark, we often hear about the holiday blues. How real a thing is that?
It's definitely a real thing. There's a lot of things that happen around the holidays that can feed into sadness for people. A lot of times if somebody's not feeling that well and they're looking around and it seems like everybody's excited for the holidays and they're excited to open gifts and somebody's feeling depressed, it makes them feel worse.
I guess we're all supposed to feel happy. As you said, there's so much out there that we're supposed to feel joy and happiness, but maybe a lot of people aren't.
Well, yes, exactly. You see a lot of stress around the holidays, especially you'll have a parent that has 4 children and they have to get gifts for everybody and they have to wait in lines and they also have to plan for Christmas dinner or some holiday dinner and they're really, really stressed and worn down and they're looking around and they're saying, I'm not having such a good time right now during the holidays. So it can get really tough for them. And especially if somebody has underlying depression and they've been feeling depressed already and they see, again, people are having joy around them and happiness and they're just feeling down and they're feeling in the dumps. It can be really difficult for them and actually make them feel a lot worse.
Yeah, I imagine if you already have depression or some other mental illness, this time of year may compound that.
Yes, absolutely. Another thing that you see a lot of times is if somebody has had lost people, maybe they lost a parent, maybe they lost somebody in their family, and the holidays come up and they're used to having them around. So grief is really prevalent around the holidays, where somebody will feel sadness that, hey, my mom's not joining me for Christmas dinner this year because she's in the hospital. So it's so important. You want to really be talking to your support system about this and letting them know how you're feeling. It's normal. You're not alone. There's so many people that are struggling at this time of year.
And I imagine the pandemic has even made this more difficult.
It has. Thankfully, things are opening up a little bit and people are able to have holiday dinners with their family, but you're still running into situations where maybe somebody has an immune compromise and they can't go to gatherings during the holidays and they're feeling very, very isolated. So isolation is really the key here. You want to stay out of isolation. You want to go visit the person that doesn't have family around, that doesn't have other people to lean on. It's all about community at this time of year.
I was going to say, what are some of the symptoms that you may feel yourself or that you may see in somebody else? What can we recognize?
Well, a lot of the symptoms come in somebody's feeling down a lot. They're feeling hopeless. When I say hopeless, they don't feel like there's light at the end of the tunnel. They don't feel like things are going to get better for them. Everything appears to be in kind of a black cloud. A lot of times too, you'll see somebody where maybe they're sleeping too much or they're sleeping too little. They're feeling really lethargic and they feel like they don't have the energy that they normally have. They've also lost interest in certain things. I mean, one of the signs you want to see is like if they're feeling really depressed and you're trying to invite them to go to get coffee or something, a lot of times they don't feel like going. So you really want to kind of keep an eye on your friends and your family. And if your gut tells you that something might be going on with them, definitely address it, talk to them, sit down, show them some empathy and really try to connect with them.
All right, well, we'll talk more about that and what you can do to help yourself and others. I imagine the worst thing to say is snap out of it. Coming up on WGAL 8 in Focus, we'll also talk with a woman about how she deals with the challenges around the holidays.
This is WGAL 8 in Focus, coverage you can count on.
Joining us now is Maggie Hunt. She's the Business and Development Manager with Retreat Behavioral Health. She has also struggled herself with substance use disorder. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Maggie, tell us a little bit about your struggles and what has happened in your life.
Yeah, I would say that growing up as a child, there was a lot of love in my household, no, reasonable understanding for why I would struggle with substance use disorder. However, probably peer pressure started it in the beginning, wanting to be cool, hanging out with my friends. And unfortunately for me, I crossed the line. It passed over a little bit into struggling in school, struggling at home, struggling with the law, and continuing to use opiates and other substances on a daily basis.
But you now have been clean for some time.
Yes, I've been in recovery for 12 years.
How do the holidays impact you? Does that bring up any, of those struggles and your family issues?
Oh, yeah. I think around the holidays, it brings up a lot of struggles for, personally for myself, as well as other people who are trying to become in recovery. I know for myself, after being sober for a little while, my father also got sober, and he struggled around this time as well. I found him. He died of an overdose 2 days after Christmas. We didn't even know that he had relapsed because I think that he was so afraid to get honest and to talk about what had happened and didn't think, anything like that would ever happen to him. And I know a lot of people who are in the recovery community struggle around this time. It comes to money, finances, the pressure that's associated with the holidays, getting the right gift, being around family members that may be triggering for you, things like that.
And we heard Mark say that you're supposed to be joyous and happy around this time, and you may not feel that way.
Yeah, no, sometimes it can bring for awkward conversation. Sometimes a lot of times we go back on memories that have happened in Christmas past. And so sometimes in Christmas past, if you struggled with substance use disorder, you may have been extremely under the influence. You may have done certain things to family members as a result of your substance use disorder. A lot of things, kind of pile up, and then you're confronted with that on the holidays, where on your regular everyday time, you might not have to worry about it as much.
And of course, there may be a lot of alcohol consumption and a lot of overdoing of things around this time by people.
Yeah, I would say that sometimes people are concerned on whether or not they should have alcohol at a party, or they shouldn't have alcohol at a party. Is it a trigger for someone? Is it not? And then the individual person who struggles with substance use disorder has the same questions. How am I going to be around this alcohol? Is it going to be triggering for me? Am I going to feel like I need to drink? Am I need to have the pressure because the holidays usually bring about jubilation, and drinking brings about jubilation. But for a lot of people, that's not actually the case when they are, addicted to alcohol.
Yeah, I'll say. And especially if your father died right around Christmas, that has to be tough.
Well, and I know a lot of times for my family, especially if somebody who struggles with opiate use disorder or somebody who struggles with other substances, people think that if they just stop the other substances, that they can drink alcohol, on occasion, and everything's going to be fine. And that is, quite a delusion for somebody who actually struggles, with addiction and substance use disorder, because, that lowers their inhibitions. It opens opens pathways up for, wanting that substance that, will take you where you want to get to. So yeah, it's a big time struggle.
One thing can lead to another, I guess, one substance.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's really difficult. Well, we want to talk more about how you have coped and your advice for others. Coming up, we'll continue our conversation with Maggie and Mark.
This is WGAL 8 in Focus, coverage you can count on.
We are joined once again with two people from Retreat Behavioral Health, therapist and counselor Mark Sigmund, and Maggie Hunt, who's the business and development manager and has also struggled herself with substance use disorder. Thanks again for being here. Maggie, you talked about your struggles and what has happened in your life. How have you coped, and especially around the holidays, what do you do?
For myself, I recently have tried to do new traditions to kind of bring about a new power and choice with events that I decide to attend and not to attend. Find what works best for me and my overall well-being. If there's an event that I think I am going to, or that others are going to struggle at, not to attend that event. I think also having an exit plan, saying to yourself, if I start to feel this way, or if this happens, then I'm going to leave, or I'm going to call someone who, can help to navigate my thoughts and emotions, and just building a supportive community for you outside of just your family, including your friends.
I like that, an exit plan. I guess you have to learn to say no in some cases.
Oh, yeah. Refusal skills are definitely something that you should probably talk about with someone before you go into whatever event that it is that you're going to, because a lot of times people don't understand why somebody wouldn't want to drink at the holiday.
Yeah, I know. People find that hard to believe if you say no, thank you. But you have to learn to say that, I guess. Mark, what about that? She talked about an exit strategy and, learning to decline invitations and say no.
It's crucial. One of the things that when it comes to the holidays is there's what we call triggers all over the place. Everything from, it could be company parties to family parties to dealing with family during the holidays. And it's what we talk about in treatment a lot is really preparing, just like Maggie talked about, preparing for the event, avoiding certain events. She brought up the whole idea of an exit plan. When it comes to that, you'll get somebody that they'll go to a party and next thing you know, they feel like drinking, but they didn't drive. They have no way to leave at that point and they feel stuck and they're having cravings and they don't know what to do. And so it's really important to have that exit plan, but to also think about it in advance. How am I going to decline drinking if I'm at this event? Is there somebody sober that I can go with? Is there somebody that knows my situation that I can talk to? Can I reach out to a sponsor and really get some help from him in terms of preparing for this? But I'll tell you, if you're in early recovery, it's best to just probably avoid a lot of situations.
But yet you mentioned the isolation. I guess at the same time you want to not turn down every invitation or going out because you may become isolated.
Well, yes. What we always talk about is forming a community. For instance, going to a 12-step meeting, going to maybe it's church events, going and being around people, but yet avoiding situations where there's alcohol or drugs present. Now, again, it's tough because a lot of times people can't avoid all situations. So what we do is we prepare for those situations. We know what the triggers are. We have supports lined up in advance. That's what's crucial is sometimes, like if somebody goes to a party and they don't have a plan, that's where they run into trouble a lot of times because there's a lot of things that can happen. People are they find it very awkward usually, especially in early recovery, being sober at a party when they feel like they were the life of the party before. They were the one that was saying, give me all the booze, give me all the drugs. So it's tough for them. It's a really big adjustment.
And what do you advise people back to, feeling depressed and having the blues this time of year? What should people do? Who should they reach out to, Mark?
So it's really important to seek out therapy and have somebody to talk to. But it's also so important to really have close people where you can let your guard down and let them know how you're feeling. because the instinct usually when you're feeling depressed is to isolate. And a lot of people tell themselves, well, I don't want to be a burden on other people. I
Right.
don't want to bring other people down. So it's all about really getting support because you can get through these holidays, you can get through depression. It's very treatable, but you need the support. Sometimes you might need medication. You might need an antidepressant. So getting professional help is also very important.
Yeah. Maggie, what has helped you the most? I know you mentioned new traditions, but in terms of support and therapy.
I think that exactly what Mark said, building that community around yourself and understanding that it is okay to ask for help. It is not, you are not less of a person if you need some assistance from your peers or from your family. I think that having a plan, exactly what Mark said, to be able to make changes to the plan and not putting so much pressure on yourself. Give yourself a break. I mean, the holidays are supposed to be enjoyable. And, as you kind of get sober and you find your overall peace, I know for myself, like I just find to take it slow, take it, one day at a time, one event at a time, 1 minute at a time, and understand that, if this is your first year sober, alleviate some of that pressure by putting the burden on somebody else. Get a sponsor, talk to your family and friends about some of the things that are really bothering you. And the most important thing is always to have a plan, always to think about what's coming in the day ahead or in the days to come, where you're going to be, who you're going to be around. So that way, you know what to expect, and you try to limit some of the surprises that happen.
And as you said, don't be afraid to reach out for help or tell people what your situation is.
Mm-hmm.
Stay with us, because coming up, we'll talk about seasonal affective disorder, or SAD.
This is WGAL 8 in Focus. Coverage you can count on.
And our guests are from Retreat behavioral health therapist and counselor Mark Sigmund and Maggie Hunt, who's the business and development manager at Retreat. Again, thanks for being here. Mark, tell me about SAD. What is that? How many people suffer from it?
So seasonal depression disorder is depression that sets in usually during the winter time. In cold northern climates, it's a very common disorder. We see about 20 million people have this, and it's probably actually a lot more people. What happens is in the winter time, when the light falls down, there's not enough light hitting the retina for certain people. And what happens is they start releasing neurochemicals that are usually released at night during the day. So a lot of times people feel more lethargic, they feel down, they feel sad. And certain people are much more affected by this. It's classic depression, but it's due to low light conditions.
So why do some people respond like this and others don't?
That is a great question that we don't know why. We don't know why certain people are affected more than others. I'll tell you, most people will notice once the days get shorter that they feel a little bit, maybe they're feeling tired or they're feeling a little bit down, but they're not depressed because it's not interfering with their functioning. I think people are definitely affected by it, just about everybody, in terms of a change in mood. You might notice it in the springtime when the first sunny day comes and it starts getting sunny. You start seeing, it seems like a lot of people seem really happy all of a sudden in northern climates, doesn't it? And on the contrary, when they turn the clocks back and it's getting dark at 4:30, you hear a lot of people complaining about it.
So it's a chemical thing that's going on in your body.
Yes, it really is. And I'll tell you, some of the classic treatments for it are antidepressants for certain people, but one of the really popular treatments is the use of what's called a light box. And that's using artificial light. It's usually what's called 10,000 lux. So it's very bright. and somebody starts using a light box for an hour a day, usually starting, believe it or not, in September, because they think it kind of develops over time. And that can be very helpful. You hear about it all the time in Alaska and places where it's dark all the time.
And that seems to really help, that light therapy?
It really does. But I'll tell you, you probably want to talk to a professional and make sure there's nothing else going on like bipolar or things like that. But yeah, the light therapy is very effective. The problem is that somebody, usually seasonal affective disorder, peaks around Thanksgiving for some people, and for other people it peaks around February. And the problem is a lot of people, they start feeling depressed and they think, well, now I'm going to get a light box. And you want to get it in advance and start using the light so it doesn't set in the first place.
Maggie, is that anything you've struggled with? I know you've had other disorders with substance abuse, but are you affected by the winter time as well?
Not as much during the winter time. I think that definitely a lot of people that I know are, and a lot of people that, oh, am I frozen? Oh, okay. A lot of people that I know are, and a lot of people that struggle with that use the light box, and they seem to do really well with it.
Maggie, you mentioned earlier that you like to start new traditions. Tell me about that. What are some of the traditions you do around the holiday season to avoid feeling, so depressed?
So this year, it's my family and I, instead of sitting around and have a big Thanksgiving dinner with a lot of people, we went to the movies instead. Just an example.
Oh, that's great. And I imagine that's a good idea, Mark, some new traditions?
Oh, absolutely. It's definitely, especially in sobriety, is forming these new traditions, because you lose something, right? But you open other doors that are much more meaningful and actually very healthy. So it's extremely important.
All right. Well, we certainly hope that if people are struggling, that they reach out for help. We thank you both for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
The Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration has a national helpline. The number is 1-800-662-HELP. Thank you for joining us for WGAL 8 in Focus. For all of us at WGAL, I'm Susan Shapiro. And join us again next Saturday night at 7 o'clock for WGAL 8 in Focus, right after NBC Nightly News.